Thank you all for coming back after lunch to us. Porcelain of everyday use can tell us a lot about the lives and attitudes of their owners. Objects such as inkstands, spittoons, perfume bottles, or mirrors are immediate messengers of the habits and the spirit of a century. All of these objects have clear functional shapes, but they are nevertheless objects of refinement. They were made of precious porcelain decorated by artists and used by court society. Noble life had to be refined and controlled by ceremonial ritual, even in rather private moments. It comes as no surprise that Claudius Innocentius Du Paquier also served this need of his clients with his porcelain production. Porcelain and refinement, these are two inseparable concepts of the 18th century. Now I begin with an object which is the ultimate refinement in porcelain of an everyday object when it's turned into an object of representation. This is the basic shape is a regular broth bowl with a cover, but it's decorated with gold mounts and encrusted with diamonds and cameos. The diamond was one of the favorite or the favorite precious stone of the 18th century, of the Baroque period, because of its white sparkle. And the object I just showed you was a present by Emperor Charles VI to the court in St. Petersburg. In my chapter, Inspired by Passion, I looked at the various needs and pursuits, pastimes and vanities of the noble lady or gentleman in Vienna in the first half of the 18th century. For this lecture, I have selected a few important moments in a day in the life of a Viennese prince or princess of our imagination. The day began with prayer. Piety was always in the background or even in the foreground of a noble life, as gallant as it may have been in other respects. Vienna, the capital of the Holy Roman Empire, was thoroughly Catholic and governed by the rhythms of daily and of the rules of the Catholic Church and its many feasts, saints, and hours of prayer. This was not only true in the noble palace, but also at all levels of society. In the early morning, our imaginary prince or princess engaged in private reading and prayer in their chambers, kneeling in front of a small house altar. First, they would make the sign of a cross with holy water suspended from a holy water stoup. And here you see a wonderful example, which you probably all have just admired at the exhibition. It comes from the Sullivan collection, and it's made of a bank of clouds, and it shows angels raising the Holy Cross into the heavens. Holy water stoups could have been made of all sorts of materials, of silver, sometimes of gold or pewter, but one made of porcelain was not only pious, but also had a little flair of fashion. And also, which was very much in the taste of the Baroque, it could have been painted colorfully. And here we have a little connection to contemporary sculpture, to Baroque sculpture, which could also be very brightly and naturalistically colored. Of course, the angels are quite naive, and this is very much in the Du Paquier style of sculpture. They look more like sugar paste pieces and not like, of course, the Giuliani sculpture with all their refinement and elegance. Holy water could also serve medical purposes, at least according to Princess Eleonora von Liechtenstein's popular book, Der aufgesprungene Granatapfel, a book on herbs and medicine. The princess advises giving holy water to screaming children as a calming drink. This plaque, which depicts the Holy Family, was probably once part of a house altar in the private rooms of a palais. The unity and harmony of the Holy Family was a favorite and powerful motif at the time of the Counter-Reformation. Here it is exquisitely executed and can be regarded as one of the most refined paintings on Du Paquier porcelain. We have attributed this miniaturist style with its stippling and the soft colors again to Christian Frey. Meredith has showed you a few examples on the basis of some signed work by the artist. The shape of the plaque follows the typical arched altarpieces in Baroque churches. Like this one, it's the private chapel of Prince Eugene in the Belvedere Palace, with an altarpiece by Francesco Solimena of this arched shape, as we just saw. After Mass, at which all the members of the household and staff were expected to participate, the prince and princess organized themselves for the many duties and divertissements of the day. In order to be able to live a rigidly planned life, the possession of a clock was a necessity. Being able to tell time and not having to wake up with the sunrise and go to bed with the sunset enabled the noble society to lead a life which was somewhat artificial. Owning a clock also gave a certain sense of control over the passage of time. It also meant independence from nature and from the power of the church. Ordinary Viennese citizens depended on the church bells, which rang at certain hours of prayer and summoned them away from their earthly pursuits. Johann Jakob Schübler, an architect, designed some fantastic pieces of furniture and interiors, and I'm showing you here a parade bed, a state bed, in a room where a clock, in rather dim light, reflects its clock face onto the floor. The atmosphere is quite mysterious, giving the ticking time a powerful presence. Du Paquier made a variety of clock cases of porcelain, and this one is preserved at the MAC in Vienna. We dated it between 1735 and 40, and it shows personifications of America. And the shape of these clock cases usually is based on architectural structures, such as these garden pavilion made of trellis work, which is reflected in the porcelain by the open work, by the pierced walls. And this pavilion was built for Prince Eugene of Savoy, who you have met already today, for his garden in the country. After the early morning prayer, one was dressed by the chamberlain or a chambermaid, or else one had to ring the handbell. This beautiful handbell, which is also in the exhibition, dates from circa 1730, and it's preserved with its stand, which is very rare. It also comes from the Sullivan collection. And one of the special things of the book is to show the pieces upside down, so you can really see what the decoration is like underneath, or what the structure of a piece may be. Another very amusing bell in the shape of a chambermaid is shown here. It's from the Metropolitan Museum collection and also shown in the exhibition. The chambermaid reveals her identity as an actress due to the exaggerated costume, the big necklace, the bonnet with the huge flowers, and it's dated circa 1735. The same model of this figure, holding a mask and really showing she's an actress by doing that, is set into a candlestick at the Museo Civico in Turin. After the bell was rung, a domestic came in and brought what was desired. This wonderful, small, delicious, almost miniature-like oil painting by Norbert Grund, a painter from Prague, with a lady at her dressing table tells us a lot about the customs at the toilet. Here the lady is being waited on by a boy in exotic livery. He's serving coffee while she's seated at her dressing table. She's wearing a dressing gown very loosely. On the table there's a typical small dressing table mirror. The Du Paquier manufactory also produced mirrors of this type, which probably were part of a whole toilet service, including boxes for beauty spots, wig powder, but also coffee, tea, and chocolate. As we can see, hot beverages were taken at the dressing table as well. And this is a wonderful Du Paquier dressing table mirror frame from about 1730 to 35. These étuis or nécessaires containing all sorts of tools which one needed to beautify oneself or to do other things were quite common on the dressing table as well. And this one is preserved in Naples and also dated circa 1730 to 35 with its exquisite and very fine and colorful Laub- and Bandelwerk decoration. This ewer and basin could have been part of a toilet service as well, or else the set could have been used for ceremonial hand washing at an official dinner when the emperor, for example, washed his hands and a very high nobleman had the honor of pouring the water. Melinda and Paul know what I'm talking about. Water was often scented with rose water, as suggested by the painted decoration which the Du Paquier factory called European flowers. European flowers usually contained a few roses in the typical light pink of the manufactory palette, which were very finely executed in the manner of watercolors with many layers of translucent color and in the naturalistic taste of the Baroque. Here is a portrait of Archduchess Maria Anna by Andreas Möller of 1727, and I'm showing her next to a detail of the ewer with the roses and just giving you an impression of the decorative motive of the European flowers also in the portraits, and they somehow show all the sensuality together with the botanical interest of the period. A perfume set like this one, which is now in the Bavarian State Museum in Munich, was indispensable at the toilet table. Rose oil and stronger fragrances like musk and amber, gold powder against gout, and paste for the face were kept in such precious containers. This set, comprising a box of Du Paquier plaques, mounted in gold and fitted with various bottles made of porcelain and cut glass, once belonged to the Hermitage in St. Petersburg, where it entered the court inventories, possibly as a diplomatic gift from Emperor Charles VI in Vienna. Fragrances played their own part in the world of refinement. The use of too much water was considered dangerous. It could have been contaminated by invisible germs, which would penetrate the skin. Therefore, washing was replaced by a dry rubbing of the body with towels. At the same time, our prince and princess were also suspicious of the air, so windows were rarely opened. It was necessary to perfume the rooms with the scents of potpourris. This mixture of flower petals and spices needed a vessel to hold it, which was usually perforated, as you can see here in these two vases in the private collection, the fragrance to let the fragrance infuse the room. And I show you a side view of one of these vases, which are very finely decorated. They also date around 1730, and they show this wonderful gilded mask, which is quite typical of Du Paquier. The fear of disease was not unreasonable. A basic knowledge of medicine was expected of each nobleman or woman who was responsible not only for their own families, but also for the staff and peasants which depended on them in every sense. In Vienna, there were 11 pharmacies at the time of Du Paquier. The Imperial Court Pharmacy was listed among the clients of Du Paquier. A certain Dr. Angel, bought a large group of pharmacy jars in 1746 when the Du Paquier porcelain was sold off. Only a few of the Baroque pharmacies have survived in Vienna. One of them is the fascinating pharmacy of the convent of the Elizabethan nuns. Unfortunately, no Du Paquier porcelain was found in it. I think it was only the very rich, large pharmacies who could afford real porcelain. Most of them use glass, or of course all depending on the contents, glass, wood, or maiolica, or other ceramics. The head nun still keeps a few chocolate cups of the 18th century and in this convent, and the pharmacy is still in use today. It contains narwhal teeth and ostrich eggs, which create a Kunstkammer-like atmosphere. You see some of the ostrich eggs here above the door, and the frescoes are very wonderful and intriguing because they show depictions of the continents and their healing powers. Asia, for example, which you can see here above the door. There's Asia, an Asian man coming, and he brings corals, which also had healing powers. And I have to show you a snapshot of mine, which is, of course, not as wonderful as the photo which Joe Kosher took, but it gives you an insight into how the pharmacy is still used today, and you can see the narwhal teeth surrounded by the books and telephones and everything. And narwhal teeth were ground down to powder in the Baroque period and used against plague and other infections. And something went wrong, but I wanted to show you the 3 pharmacy jars of the Sullivan collection. They're very small, and they probably once belonged to a house or travel apothecary. These pieces show the typical cylindrical shapes of pharmacy jars, and their inscriptions refer to their former contents. The Confectio al Kermes, which you see in the middle, consisted of lapis lazuli, gold, and musk. And the Oppo balsam on the left was the resin of a rare tree of the Red Sea, which could also be used with other ingredients as a fine mask for ladies to prevent wrinkles. And the container on the right, the Teriaka and Romari, was made of honey, 64 flowers, opium, and snake meat. I don't know exactly what it was supposed to heal, but certainly powerful. So we go through the pharmacy again. Returning to our imaginary prince and princess. Now that they have been dressed and have taken their breakfast and medicine, they are ready to play. And it was really the period of lapdogs, and they were taught tricks by the noble children, also by the ladies and gentlemen. And this very sweet pug dog made of Du Paquier porcelain is in a private collection. It's dated around 1740 to 44. Just shows a very human posture, which was probably taught to it by its master. And on the left, you see a portrait by Etienne Chevalier of Prince Johann Nepomuk Karl of Liechtenstein with his lapdog. Now our prince is ready to go out. Noble children had to take dancing and fencing lessons, not only to be able to perform, but also to learn to hold themselves with noble posture. Gestures were part of these postures, and while walking in the park, nothing could look more refined than swinging a walking stick fitted with a Du Paquier cane handle. And I'm showing you 2 examples. The handle on the left is from the Sullivan collection and can also be seen in the exhibition. and it has this wonderful face of a snake at the end. And the cane knob on the right is in a private collection, and it's painted with European flowers and insects. And it's dated around 1735. And while playing cards, for example, or while going for a walk, one would sport a precious snuff box with a dainty gesture, or, if feeling fragile, a perfume flask, like one of those two. These small items, called galanterie, became an indispensable part of the dress code even. Perfume bottles like these are eau de la reine bottles. Eau de la reine was very popular perfume made of rosemary and alcohol, which was used as a medicine, as perfume, as a universal healing water, were produced in many various shapes and patterns at the Du Paquier manufactory, and the wonderful gold mounts were always making them even more precious and representative, of course, in the gallant society. Tobacco boxes, snuff boxes, or tabatières were decorated with a large variety of motifs as well. Many of them, like this one, show noble pastimes. We have card games, that's the outside on the left, the card games and the walk in the parks, and then the lady with her falcon at the hunt. Playing games, dancing, or smoking were the most favorite pastimes inside a palace. Tobacco was kept in beautiful containers, like the one on the left in the Gardner Museum in Toronto, showing a Chinese man smoking a long pipe. And on the right, you can see a pipe bowl of the Du Paquier manufactory in a private collection, painted with playing adults in a park in Schwarzlot. And pipe bowls are listed on the sales in the sales books of the Du Paquier manufactory in very large quantities. So they must have been a very popular item, which has rarely been preserved. When night fell, it was usually time for music, which could accompany an intimate supper. Here, a soup tureen from the Vienna, with a decoration again by Christian Frey, whose style we have met several times already today, shows Putti making music. The painting shows the typical style of Christian Frey, with stippling and the earthy, soft tones of color. A clock could also have been in the room where the intimate supper and chamber music took place. This clock case of the Du Paquier manufactory of about 1740 is aptly decorated with musicians and gold stars on an underglazed blue ground. And while the music and the supper was going on, servants would prepare the bedroom for the night and light the wall sconces. Here, it's the bedroom of Prince Eugene again in the Belvedere Palace, and the curtains are drawn. And this is a wonderful wall sconce, one of a pair in the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, and it shows the typical shape of these wall sconces of the Du Paquier manufactory, with their crown on top made of palmettes. Chamber sticks would be used to lead the prince or princess up to their rooms, and a light would illuminate the bedchamber all through the night. And this is a night light with battle scenes at the Gardner Museum in Toronto. It was probably intended to illuminate the bedroom of a rather of a prince of military career, I suppose. And next to his bed there could have been also a food warmer, which could keep his breakfast warm. And here I show you another interior of Schübler with his great visions of Baroque interiors. And So to bed in a world where to us today reality seems like a fantasy. Thank you.